Okay, so welcome to the 6th of our Elevenses webinar series focusing on radical kindness, brought to you by Belong, the Cohesion and Integration Network and Spirit of 2012. My name is Chrissie Cox and I will be your host for this webinar. We're bringing back the Elevenses tradition to stop everything and reach for a cuppa and a cake mid-morning. This is mine this week. It's a very nice apricot frangipani thing. Don't know, first time I've made it. Anyway, it's pretty good. But the idea is to bring back the Elevenses and have inspirational stories that we can share of brilliant projects that promote kindness across difference at this challenging time in our towns and cities. Each webinar is half an hour long and it focuses on a new area each time. So today we're focusing on the city of Manchester, which has a long-standing reputation as a radical and vibrant city, always finding its own way to bring communities together and support one another in times of crisis with extraordinary creativity. With me today, I have Rebecca Friel, CEO of Odd Arts, Hannah Powell from voluntary and community sector sport organisation MACC, Mohammed Ali of social cohesion organisation Communities for All, and hopefully joining us will be Mike Omoniyi, CEO of bipartisan news network, the Common Sense Network. So welcome to you all. So I'm going to start with you, Rebecca, a little bit about Odd Arts and what you've been doing over this time.
So before I talk about acts of kindness, I did really want to say that actually we feel really privileged to be in position to do that, because it feels a little bit narcissistic to kind of come up here and say how truly kind Odd Arts is, even though we are. But I do think it's worth reflecting that in times of hardship and trauma and adversity, I think humans have a massive need to give to other people. It's like a really basic need that humans have, to feel like they're part of something. And I think people have massively struggled during lockdown and COVID because they've not been able to be part of the recovery. Some people, they felt totally powerless at home. So before I talk about these projects we're doing, you know, they're giving just as much to us and the Odd Arts staff as they are to everybody else. They're a huge privilege to be able to do now. And I know it just feels really good to be able to do something. So yeah, I just wanted to say that before. So some of the things that we've really enjoyed doing, we've really quickly, we sent out creative packs to people at home when lockdown started. But soon they got outdated because obviously people are allowed out the house a little bit more. And we noticed quickly people wanted actual physical contact, which was really difficult. So we created the creative door knock, where some of our team will knock on to an address and literally deliver a drama workshop just for the purposes of well-being, happiness, joy, connection at people's doorstep. We did it in parks, we did it in pavements, we did it in yards. You know, we've got one booked in tomorrow. The staff are obviously having to wear a lot more coats now because they're facing it in snow, but the creative door knocks go on. And that's just something we're really proud of, because people who are facing multiple barriers that might not be able to, you know, make it to Powerhouse where we're based can still access that. And they're obviously socially distanced and everything, but they've been really nice to do. And we did a similar thing in Hindley Prison, which we were really pleased we were able to get through all the safety vetting. And we did one-on-one workshops with men in Hindley Prison, classed as the most vulnerable there. So people facing huge adversity, people with really severe mental health challenges at that point, who are still now locked up 23 hours a day in prison. So what we're feeling out here, times it by, you know, 100 in there. And we did those one-to-one creative workshops in there. And I've got some really nice quotes from those workshops. So someone said, "I'm grateful to get out of my cell. Being locked up 23 hours a day is awful." Someone else said they wanted to keep the laughter and the fun, and that they got real personal fulfillment from it. It was a creative outlet and just a way to socialize. So again, that just felt really good to be part of, I suppose, in some way, the recovery of COVID, because we all know the physical danger, and I think we're all starting to think a lot more about the mental health dangers of it. Another really nice project we're so happy to have been able to do is one we funded through Rad Equal, and you can put these pictures up now for me if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We worked separately with City of Sanctuary, who work with people facing asylum or refugee status. And we also work separately with Back on Track, who work with people who've got experience of the criminal justice system or homelessness, lots of different barriers. We work separately with them in a socially distanced way. We managed to get kind of really safe support groups set up. And they were exploring the theme of belonging and the belonging in Manchester. Both these groups separately said they would never ordinarily come together with that other group, and they might even have had kind of quite judgmental attitudes towards the other. The really nice thing is, just before Christmas, you can see the pictures here, we brought these two groups together and they used theatre to explore the meaning of belonging and what it means to belong, and they found a really shared identity in what that meant. They felt originally quite different to one another, but through the process of theatre and exploring this theme, there was loads of similarities in what things in their life made them feel like they didn't belong. And a quote that I love so much from this project is, belonging to me is being here in this group, being accepted and working together. You created a safe space where I feel I've been heard and truly listened to. So that was a really gorgeous quote, that one. And then finally, something we've just done post-Christmas after a theatre tour got cancelled again, focusing on self-harm, anxiety and depression with young people. We obviously couldn't deliver that face-to-face, so we really quickly after Christmas re-scripted, filmed this whole workshop, and we're delivering that with interaction with young people, where the characters from the film come onto Zoom and still interact with people, so they've still got that level of engagement and interaction. We could have put the tour back, we could have just postponed it, but we felt really it was unethical to not find a way to deliver it. It seemed ironic that we'd cancel a tour on anxiety, self-harm, and it also looks at eating disorders when these issues have, you know, increased by, I'd say, a minimum of 100% on average. So we're just really proud of being able to do that. So we're still finding ways to interact with people, but they're the examples of, I suppose, what we think are kind of radical kindness through the pandemic. But as I said, more than anything, it's been an absolute privilege to be able to keep doing that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's brilliant, Rebecca. Can I move over to Mohammed? Can you tell me a little bit about what you've been doing on Communities for All?
Yes, good morning all. My name is Mohammed. I'm the Centre Manager here at Communities for All. We're based in Cheetham Mill in North Manchester. If you never heard of us before, we're based in the Kisram Mosque. That's on the main road of Cheetham Mill Road. That's the most diverse street in Britain. So we've got every kind of culture here, every language kind of spoken here. I think it's about over 140, 50 languages that's spoken in this small kind of like area kind of thing. We generally throughout the year, basically, we do various activities, events throughout the year kind of thing. We do like blood donation hubs kind of thing. We do like cancer awareness and health talks, tuition classes, helping the homeless, all that kind of thing. But obviously since the pandemic and things have to change kind of thing, we couldn't do everything from the centre. So we had to kind of shifted our approach towards like supporting more those people that kind of in need kind of thing, more need than usual. So we kind of had to meet their needs. So we got together with 8 other organisations from the local community. So they all are their specialists, kind of ways of working with, you know, specialists, the ways that can help people with various debt basically, or probably providing hot meals or providing kind of support over the phone. So all these kind of things got put together. So we worked with them kind of groups kind of thing, and we sat down as what each group could kind of bring to the table. Specialist wise. So we've from there we started a befriending service to support the most vulnerable in the community, the people that are most isolated or vulnerable in the community, where obviously that was from our centre here. So what we did is got people together, got volunteers together. The volunteers were like difficult to get because the people that used to volunteer in the past kind of thing, what happened with them, they had to socially isolate themselves because of the COVID. So we had to get a new breed of volunteers to come through. And at that time, people being furloughed kind of thing, and people coming, so we had some teachers that come and joined us, some youngsters, there was parents and children coming together kind of to help us kind of thing. But obviously we had to keep them social distance and have not too many people at the same time. So they kind of like took on, we trained them up, and then some of them started working from home and do the befriending service from home. So we kind of made it easy from there. So we moved on from there. The food that bank we used to do, that used to be like 5 packs a week. So we used to give out 5 packs or 6 packs a week to support families. That drastically increased to like 50 to 100 families a week kind of thing. So it was like a full-time job then. That's it, just the food bank on its own. So just to do the shopping, well, like we had 2, 3 dedicated people just to do the shopping, just to make the packs like up to 6, 7 people basically. So 2 people each day, kind of on a rota basis, used to come and attend and do the food bank. So throughout, so there was no 9 to 5 kind of thing. So there was obviously, it was going throughout the evening, and some people had more time in the evening, some morning. So it was like going out through the day, weekends. Yeah. So this was like obviously some of the pictures that we were going out to the homeless and, helping people in temporary accommodations, taking food parcels to them. And I think one of the bottom pictures there, we was working with Feed My City. It's a Sikh community organization. So we kind of tagged in with all of the different organizations in a picture of the Sky one there. Sky Dish people. That's what they come out. They kind of did some of our deliveries. We went out to the hospitals, to Tesco's, to care homes, to various organizations to show our support kind of thing. Obviously, they're working throughout the year kind of thing. So just to help them, to show our appreciation for them and keep their morale up. So we visited the pandemic control center. We visited the fire service, the hospitals. Then we went to the local schools as well, took flowers over, took hot food over. So the food was provided by some of the local organizations like Tobacco, I think you've seen on there kind of thing. So so collectively, we kind of reached a lot more people than we would have reached on our own. But it's like all the different organizations coming together, that kind of made a huge difference. And as a result, we were more connected because of all the like information, all the like specialists, or other organizations. We are like some people with dealing DV, some people need debt. So we kind of gelled well together. It's never happened before, like where we come before this. It was like each organization to their own. They could probably known about it, but they were actually working together. Now we kind of more open kind of thing. Oh yeah, can you speak to Rick here over the North Manchester Black Health Forum, or can you go to see Sinead at the Cheetah Middle Advice Centre? So like first names, obviously you can work a lot better. So as even the people, they were more connected or more supported.
The power of the collective. Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's brilliant. Hannah, can I move over to you, and can you tell me what you've been doing at MACC? I've also got some pictures for you as well, haven't I? So tell me when you want me to share.
Okay, thanks. So at MACC, at the beginning of lockdown in March, we decided that one of the things that we should be doing, because we support the voluntary community and the social enterprise sector in Manchester, is to actually tell the stories that Rebecca and Mohammed are talking about and start publicising what's happening in communities across Manchester. So I live in Elevenses, and straight away one of my neighbours set up like a mutual aid group, Elevenses Corona Helpers, and there was loads of those across the city that started appearing, and we just wanted to start saying what people were doing, how they were like coming together to help each other. So whether it's neighbours helping each other out, getting food for people who are having to isolate, or things like the rainbows, like Mohammed was saying. We were just documenting some of the creative projects that were trying to inspire people, and things like odd arts and venture arts, different arts projects. But we actually started making these little kindness stories. You could show them if you like.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just to try and take a snapshot of what's happening in the city, and also show the sort of worth of the voluntary and community sector and what difference they're making. So this is one of my favourite ones, really, that during Ramadan, the Myriad Foundation got together with other organisations to make sure people were fed in Piccadilly Gardens. So every night during Ramadan, they did this. So there were things that are a lot related to food, obviously. So there's quite a lot of food banks set up and delivering stuff. And like you say, different organisations working together, all fun things like this one in Hume, I think it is, with on the balconies, because people obviously, some of these people were isolated before the pandemic, and then obviously it just escalated. So to actually get people involved, they were playing bingo on balconies at one point, and different projects that they've been doing to try and keep people like help people's well-being, like you were saying, Rebecca. It's a lot of mental health issues obviously been happening during this time. So yeah, so we've been doing the stories, the Manchester Kindness stories we're calling them, and I was tweeting one pretty much every day and adding them to our website just to try and share some positive stories. Really, the news has been pretty depressing, hasn't it? So yeah, to try and show just how people do react and how they do help each other out, and people are doing some great things during this time that we're trying to focus on, and individuals as well, supporting each other. So students, and combating some of the negative press about students and different people as well, because there has been some of that, but there have been students that have been helping out or making scrubs or whatever it happens to be. So we wanted to share some of those stories really. So 42nd Street have been feeding us stories about young people as well. And as well as the kindness stories, we hold a Spirit of Manchester Awards every year that you may have heard of. I know Odd Arts have been in it before. So this year we did it differently. We didn't do it in a competitive way. We asked people of Manchester to nominate someone they wanted to thank for everything that they've done during the pandemic time, really, over the last year. So it could be someone just delivered you some food, or it could be an organisation that set up a food bank, or it could be an art project, whatever it happened to be. And we got about 100 of these thanks. And again, we made them into stories like the kindness stories. And we had an event where we showed some films of people thanking people, and people could chat at the same time and say who they wanted to thank. And it was just really nice to recognise the work that people have been doing, and actually just have it was just a nice event, that people were really happy, and some people were crying because they'd been thanked, and we're just really proud to be part of it. So it was nice. It was a nice event, and I made all those stories into a brochure, which sort of is like a permanent record to show, what's been happening over this time, but in a positive light. And yeah, and one comment that we got from that was Sally Hobbs from the Pankhurst Trust. She said that that it highlighted how much had been done in such a difficult time with creativity, commitment and determination, and it's taken all of us to support the people who we serve. So yeah, I mean, it was just a really nice sort of record of what's been happening and some of the positive stuff. So Mohammed was in the awards as well. He was thanked, so he's in that brochure. But yeah, and we're going to do the same sort of thing this year. And I think we don't know what it's going to be. We're probably not going to be able to hold a big event like we used to. So, and I think the virtual event was more inclusive anyway, because so anyone could come and see what had been happening. And it didn't have to just be people from Manchester either, but we could highlight what's been happening in the city. So
really interesting, some of the benefits, isn't it, that are coming out that we may not have been able to foresee before all of this began, but actually some of the connections, some of the new ways of doing things, there are positives in there amongst all the many negatives that we face. Mike, I'm so glad that you could join us. Hello. Excellent, lovely to meet you.
Likewise, sorry to everybody I had Zoom issues, my laptop wouldn't turn on. But
don't worry, it's the land of technology, isn't it? We're all dealing with it at the moment. So Mike, can you tell me a bit about the Common Sense Network and what you've been doing?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me, of course, and yeah, so much positivity in the room just from everyone so far. Like I'm just smiling, just listening to all the great things that have been happening. So my name is Mike, and I look after an organization called the Common Sense Network, and we are essentially an independent news outlet. We were founded by 500 people through a Kickstarter campaign who saw a problem in the mainstream media and wanted to do something about it. So unlike mainstream media types, we're not driven solely by profit margins or vested interests. What we're trying to do is bring together lots of different cleavages of people who disagree. So, what we often say, the sales pitch is, news is moving at dizzying speeds. And so people are disillusioned, they're distrustful of the news, and quite frankly, they're being driven apart by news and content. So we try to create content that brings people together, especially people who have different opinions and different perspectives and stuff like that. Of course, we do all the normal things that alternative news outlets do, like, trying to uncover wrongdoing, trying to, kind of similar to what Hannah was just saying, flood the news feed with positive stories and different types of stories, and not just a daily kind of death count of COVID, which is what it seemed like it was after for a while. And that's what we do. So lockdown, and I guess this period everyone's been speaking about, for us presented unique challenges that I think most of the people in the room can probably empathize with. Stuff like, you know, big events being cancelled, having to move online and stuff like that. Two projects that I think, you know, probably fit the brief of what you're asking. One is a string of well, we did a project that was all about mentoring, because one thing we saw happen, and actually we were helped by, I think, the Crime Reduction Agency, something like that, which is part of the Manchester City Council. But one thing we saw when lockdown happened was a lot of BME students in schools were falling behind at a greater rate, because there's normally a lag when it comes to soft skills with BME students. So we said, well, why don't we step in, even though it isn't our normal operation, why don't we step in and do some training, some digital skills, you know, really try and help out folks who were falling behind. And with support from the council, we were able to do that. We did a number of different workshops. We did lots of different digital workshops, but also mentoring sessions for young kids, especially on digital, because that's obviously what we do. So we help them scale up their digital skills, and you know, that was really good. We had people sending messages like, you know, if it wasn't for this, I would have nothing to do. I think that was a bit hyperbole, but you get the gist. They appreciated it, and that had lots of good impact. Another project, of course, is one that again, Radical supported, which it's called In My Own Words, and it's a podcast we started where the whole point of it is to give a diversity of people in Manchester a chance to take control of their own narrative. As I've said before, the mainstream media often paints a narrative and tells the stories of diverse people for them. And so what we do with this podcast, supported by Radical, is to give ordinary people a chance to kind of say what they think about, you know, their lives, their stories, what's happening. And that's been well received too. The people who've been part of that have spoken about kind of the cathartic feeling of feeling like you're telling your own story rather than having, you know, someone else tell it on your behalf. So yeah, it's been great. I'm from London, if you can't tell by the accent, but I've been living here for a while, and yeah, I found like the environment, especially all the kind of local SMEs and charities in Manchester. It's been a blessing, man, because there's so many like kind of pure-hearted folks who really believe in stuff like this. And yeah, I've been a recipient and a beneficiary of that community.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's brilliant. I'm so glad you could join us, because it's great. What a fantastic bunch of people you are, and amazing the work that you're doing. I've got a question for all of you, really, and I'll pass it over to Rebecca first, but it's really about, we're defining radical kindness as kindness that reaches across difference. And I guess what we're saying is that it needs to be a mindful process. It needs to be something that we think about in order to move ourselves potentially out of our comfort zone and reaching out to other people across difference, particularly at this time. Do you think radical kindness is important? Rebecca, I'll pass to you first.
Of course, it's important. There are kind of so many negatives, obviously, of COVID and the pandemic, but when we're focusing on some of the positives, I think everybody, from privilege or not, has faced new levels of challenges, psychological, physical, that maybe they've felt, you know, excluded, and they've watched by as the world suffers, you know. And I'm talking about myself here as well. There's certain disadvantages I see other people have, okay? And I'm from a place of privilege, and I'm not so used to dealing with such adversity. Now, going through that ourselves, I don't know anyone that's not found their own suffering in this. I hope that we carry that forward, and actually it makes us want to understand people more longer term. You know, and the idea of us and them and what's right and wrong, that's a massively important issue to us all the time, not just now. And I hope this is kind of an opportunity for people to see the world as its more complicated and nuanced self that it is, you know, that actually that we can have a shared identity, we can have shared beliefs, and we can also be really different. So we're not just offering kindness to our own. I really hope that goes forward, because that's looking at cohesion. That's one of the massive barriers, is when we make things simple and we try and sit in one group and we're unable to see that actually we probably are more like a Venn diagram and all merging into the same thing. So yeah, that's hugely important for cohesion and people feeling like they belong, which is a really important human need.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Very good response. Hannah, can you tell me your response to that? Why you think radical kindness is important at this time?
Kindness is important any time of the year or any time throughout the life, but just during the pandemics is certainly more important than anything that you can think of. Basically, improves the quality of life of the people that are kind of suffering the most at the moment, whether it's at home, workplace, or the community. It brings the community together, kind of promotes tolerance within the community and fights hatred and prejudice that's so much kind of prevailing at the moment, kind of thing. So in all its forms, kind of thing. So obviously increasing hate crime, and the more done to reduce it is better. We all need to do more, and we need to do is stand together in these difficult times and kind of support each other. That's the message that should be going out to people. Obviously, you know, I mean, people need to know what's happening, kind of the difficulties people are kind of facing, kind of thing. And kindness is the kind of tool to kind of rectify their problems, kind of thing, and work towards, kind of thing, and reach everyone, kind of thing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to move us over to Hannah, because I know we're running out of time. 30 minutes is not long enough for all of you. So I'll just pass over to Hannah. Tell me what you think.
In my role, because we support the sector, we see a lot of kindness generally, you know, in all the different organisations. But I think the one thing that's come out is the mutual aid groups that have sprung up across the city that weren't there before. So there's lots of groups and organisations that have like a theme to them, but these are supporting the whole community, and there's loads of different people involved, and they're all helping each other. And maybe you're meeting, like I've known people have met their neighbours that they've not met before, and different backgrounds and things, you know. So I think that's made a big difference, the sort of that response to the need in the community that's sprung up, and it's been, hopefully, I think is going to continue. One of my colleagues is working with these groups to try and keep them going, and to actually how they can help in their communities. But that's been great.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, Mike, why do you think radical kindness is important at this time?
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, the simple answer is that, you know, COVID is the great leveler, isn't it? COVID doesn't really care about race, sexuality, preferences. It doesn't really matter. If you get COVID, you've got COVID, as it were. And it's been good to kind of sober people up with that. I actually think before kindness also comes even say something like justice, which I know BME communities particularly, you know, sometimes when we say kindness, it can feel a bit cosmetic, because one thing that COVID showed us was that, you know, Black people were 4 times more likely to die from the disease. That it showed us the gross disparity in terms of BME overrepresentation in frontline services. It showed us the kind of access to nutrition BME communities had. So, no, kindness is of course very, very powerful. But before we get to kindness, which for some people is optional, what some communities will probably kind of campaign for is justice before even kindness. But I just thought I would add that too.
Yeah, no, it's a very good addition. Thank you very much. So thank you so much, Rebecca, Mike, Mohammed and Hannah. I know it felt very packed. I could have one of these webinars with each of you, I think, and we could absolutely fill it. It's been so wonderful to hear what you're all doing. It's fantastic. Please keep doing it. It's brilliant.